Hello there everyone, and welcome to part 3 in the Udu Application tutorial, where we're finally going to start getting to some fun stuff and dropping content into the project we're working on. So, to begin, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the same project we've had going so far for the past 2 tutorials. As you'll remember, last time we went through talking about layouts, how to edit them and manipulate them. And now we're finally ready to start dropping in content. We're going to go to the content toolbar here. Now you'll notice on the main content toolbar here, you have a couple of buttons. You can see all the pages that you have created listed in order by number. You can move between pages using the previous or next buttons here, or you can select one from the drop-down list. Right now we obviously have only one page. You can add a new page from template, save a page as a template, or delete a page. And we'll get into some of these a bit later, but for now, what do you say we start dropping some content in? I'm going to mouse over our content pane here and click on it. And let's go ahead and start. We're going to drop in an image. You'll notice that for each content type you can drop in, when you select it from the row up here up in the toolbar, you're going to be given some options that are very specific to that type of content. For the image, we're going to go ahead and select a file. It's going to look for files off of your local drive and update them, or I should say upload them to your Udu project. We'll go ahead and add a caption. We're just going to use the default width and height of a 256 by 256 image and go ahead and create it. This advanced tab here with this element ID we'll get into in a future tutorial, but for now just ignore it. And there we go. You'll notice that we can scale our image much like dealing with the content, or I should say the layout blocks. The content blocks work the same way. So if you shift click and drag, you can position by altering the margins. You'll notice that if I let go of this here and we look at the margin listing on this item, it's set way off. We'll bring it back to the corner for now. And actually, I'm going to get rid of this hideous caption. I never should have had it there to begin with. If you want to edit an item you've already dropped in, just simply double click on it and it'll bring up the dialog box again. So I'm going to get rid of that caption. Save. And we're good to go again. Let's go ahead and as the next item we're going to drop in, let's choose some video just to make this interesting. Udu supports all type of MPEG-4 video. This one's just a default movie that I have here. You have a couple of options for autoplay, looping, showing controls. We'll go ahead and select those three and click Save. And the movie does exactly what we'd expect it to. It's my Sweet Bear movie. And I'm going to go ahead and position it in the center, maybe enlarge it some. One important thing to keep in mind with movies is they can only scale to maintain their native aspect ratio. So it's one thing if you're trying to scale it vertically and not getting the results you want. It's just one of the minor limitations with HTML5. But in general, you don't really want to distort your video anyways. Of course, you can go through and add all of the same types of styles that you'd expect. I'm going to go ahead and set this as muted. Let's go ahead and set a background color for our movie. We'll just use this black border just so it's not hanging out there in space. And maybe I feel like that's good right now, and we'll leave that as is. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply for now and save. We'll jump back into our content mode and continue editing our page. Now what I'd like to do is add a banner to this page, and to do that I'm going to come up here and edit our new pane. And this banner is actually going to apply for the whole project. When I mentioned before in one of the earlier tutorials that the content pane block was special, we're about to see why. It's a little bit easier for me to illustrate, so I'm going to go ahead and add some content to this pane first, and then we'll see the difference between the two. So I'm going to add some text and just have it fill the entire area here. And this default gray color for the text isn't going to work for us. Set it to something a little darker. And let's go ahead and center it up. And maybe scale it also. Change our font size. And just for fun, what do you say we add a little glow to it? A little shadow here. We'll look for our text shadow. There it is. Alright, there we go. Now I'm going to hit apply again, and I'm going to come over here and save. We'll bounce back into the content menu here, and so now we can take a look at some of these buttons up here on our main toolbar here when dealing with the content workflow. I'm going to add a new page. You'll notice that when I added a new page, the contents of the content pane block disappeared and the contents of new pane remained. Each block you add that is not the content pane essentially acts as the skeleton for your project or application. The content pane is the only block that will have content change based on the page you're working on. We'll see here in a second. I can bounce right back to page 1 and I see everything I had laid out before. If I go to page 2, I can come in here and edit. I'm going to just add, let's add a Swift just for the fun of it. It's a little advertisement, a little shout out to our friends in Florida at the Plaza Live, even though this is an outdated Swift from some shows there. Alright, I'm going to hit apply, save one more time, and come back into our content workflow. And now we'll see when I move between the two pages, we see the content swap out, but the actual contents of this other pane that we've added here, this other block, remains the same. Hopefully that illustrates the concept well enough for all of you out there. If not, leave me some feedback in the comments. I'll try to make a better video. Now, one other thing that's pretty cool is that we can come in here. I'm going to bounce back to page 1, and we can actually save the contents. Let's say you get something nice you like an image placed where it is, you like your video where it is, and you want to make some more pages like that, but you don't want to have to reposition and resize the images all the time or start from scratch on each new page. So we'll go ahead and save this one as a template. We'll give it a name. I'm going to call it Big Bear. We've now saved that template. We'll go to page 2. It's important to note that anytime you add a page, it's going to add it after the one that you currently have selected. So just to make things a little more obvious, I'm going to create a new page from the template, and this is going to be page 3, and we're going to use the Big Bear template we just created. And sure enough, we get it. We're on page 3. If I start at page 1 at the very beginning, we can move through all the various pages and back as well. So I'm going to hit apply and save one more time. And just for fun, I'm going to add one more page. We're going to edit the content here. Something fun, we've added support for Unity recently, so if you have a project that's in 3D, you can drop it in. One thing to be aware of when dealing with 3D in HTML, you'll notice right now it draws everything over everything else that is 2D. This can be a pain sometimes, and we're working to kind of make this a little more user-friendly, but it's just another one of the minor limitations with HTML5. One of the rules is 3D is always going to be drawn over 2D content. You'll notice I can scale. It's slower with 3D stuff, but here you go. I'm interacting with the Unity object here, and you can actually see I'm rotating around this model. Anyways, hopefully that gets you guys a quick and dirty introduction to the content. There's one up here we didn't quite talk about, which is the button type. In our next tutorial, we'll be dropping in some buttons and also talking about how you can start broadening the level of interactivity in your presentations by manipulating buttons and also adding code with JavaScript and jQuery. Alright guys, this has been a fun tutorial. Go try out all the stuff you just learned, and we'll see you in the next one.